Hey, what's up guys? JayzTwoCents here, and I am bringing you what I believe is the very first review of MSI's new GTX 980 Ti gaming 6G graphics card. This was actually one that was highly requested by the audience because people are quickly becoming a big fan of MSI and what they're doing with the gaming line, and you guys wanted to see it. Well, guess what? They reached out to me, and we are the first ones to get our hands on it. The Octane Gaming Gear combo from Cooler Master features 7 backlighting colors, turbo mode, a Vago 3050 optical sensor, along with 4 levels of DPI adjustment. Now you can pwn noobs without pwning your wallet. Click the link in the description to learn more. You guys know how we do these reviews. A lot of people have asked me why I'm not doing the live benchmarking anymore, which is where I was playing a game on the card while talking about it. That's because I can't get as much done with the video. It takes longer to create that video, meaning the video's longer, and I don't get to show you guys as much as I want to. So I'd rather keep the information more concise, especially when we're looking at a graphics card here that, this is the 4th time we've taken a look at a 980 Ti. So if I had to make some early predictions with this card, I say that it would pretty much perform better than reference and right around, where the other custom boards are that we've taken a look at. Now, back in the beginning, MSI's Twin Frozer was pretty much just a custom cooler that was put onto a reference card. In fact, my 680 that I used to have was an MSI Twin Frozer that I was able to put a reference EK water block on because, like I said, it was just a reference card. But that's not the case anymore. MSI has really gone above and beyond when it comes to their gaming line, where they're bringing you more than just reference stuff with better cooling on there. They are bringing you full custom PCBs, custom cooling options. I mean, they've really gone all out to make these cards absolutely fantastic and as best as they possibly can. Now let's go ahead and start with the cooler, since that's the thing that you always see. It is a red and black as their standard cooler, and they did on the 960 offer a green and black one, which was an anniversary or a kind of a milestone commemoration card of them selling something like 100 million graphics cards. So the standard color is red and black, which is going to kind of clash with some people just looking to do builds that maybe are blue, orange, green, black. I guess it would look good with just all black, but if you're going for like a stealthy build, then the black and red would probably not be your thing. But with that said, if it is your thing, and you don't mind the fact that it's red and black, you are going to find 2 large 100mm fans on here with lots of fins, which are going to give you good static pressure through the massive heat sink that's on here, giving you tons and tons and tons of surface area for cooling. We've got 4 heat pipes in here. They're copper heat pipes that are nickel plated. They do believe, it looks like they're a mix of 6 and 8mm pipes on there, so you're gonna get a lot of cooling, and they do run the length of the card. Now, instead of like some graphics cards that are running them long ways when it comes to the heat pipe, they are running a bend design where they come up and down through the front and the back, and then the heat is dissipated out the bottom of the card and the top of the card. So instead of long straight heat pipes that come out the back, they are coming out the top and out the bottom, as you can see. Now, the VRM on this is cooled by a heatsink, but it is not touching the major heatsink. In fact, the VRMs and MOSFETs here have their own black heatsink that it's pretty beefy actually. The whole rear portion of the card is a heatsink that's under the main cooler. So the downdraft air of this cooler is going to be cooling off that heatsink. So I guess we're gonna have to see how the overclocking does on this thing if the VRMs start to get hot. Fortunately, on the NVIDIA side, the VRMs don't tend to get incredibly hot like they do on AMD, where AMD cards can be held back by terrible VRM cooling. That doesn't usually seem to be the case with NVIDIA graphics cards, so I don't anticipate this here being a problem. Now, it does require 2 8-pin PCI Express power plugs, and that is because this is a custom PCB, as I mentioned before. Speaking of custom PCB, it is a tall PCB. As you can see here, it is taller than the mounting point here for the bracket. So you can see this is going to be a pretty high card when it comes to height. So you're going to want to make sure that this fits in your case. Make sure you check out the specs for that before you go buying this card if you're putting this in, say, a small form factor build. But other than that, if you're using a standard chassis, I don't see this being any sort of an issue. On the top right here, you have an MSI logo that does light up white. It is not an RGB, it does not change color, but it is white, and it does show when you have your graphics card oriented the normal way. As you can see, it's very attractive looking. That this is kind of the side you're going to see right there when it's installed. And it does look pretty damn good. Speaking of looking nice, they have what I think are one of the best looking backplates on the market with its bead blasted finish, but polished Dragon logo on there. So you can see, depending on how the light hits it, you know, you do have the, there we go, there's the light, there's the light. You do have your Dragon logo, which is kind of ghosted into there. And then you've got holes on the back here as well to let heat out of the backplate so it doesn't become an insulator. So the backplate's giving rigidity to the card, but also allowing there to be airflow through the backplate, which isn't going to, you know, insulate any sort of heat in there. Now, before we stick this on the test bench, there's one other thing worth mentioning. You know, of course, you have 2 SLI fingers on here because it is capable with 4-way SLI, but there's no other BIOS on this. It's a single BIOS card. So if you were going to be doing BIOS flashing, you definitely want to pay attention to what you're doing because you could easily brick this card. If it was a dual BIOS card, you could, you know, flash back using the other BIOS. But other than that, I don't see there really being any reason to do BIOS flashing. I did it on my Titans and I did it on my standard 980s, and I didn't see any sort of improvement. But anyway, that really comes down to ASIC quality and overclocking and voltage. So we'll talk about that in a different video. If you guys want me to talk more about ASIC quality and where it stands and how it affects overclocking, maybe I'll do a video on that. Tell me in the comments if you guys want to see that. So with that out of the way, let's go ahead and benchmark this thing and let's see how it does. I already have a pretty good idea of how it's going to do. I don't think it's going to be any surprise, but let's go ahead and find out anyway.
Transition.
Well, the numbers should be absolutely no surprise to you, honestly, because this is the 4th 980 Ti we've taken a look at, and it is the 2nd custom PCB board that we've looked at, and they are pretty much right in line with each other. I mean, we're talking 1 or 2 FPS difference at the most, which is easily accounted for in margin of error. I mean, different things running in the system, even though I make sure all background processes are ended, you know, there's a lot of different things that can happen that can account for 1 or 2 FPS, not to mention we're not running at the exact same frequency on all of the cards. Now this card was running 1514 megahertz, which was nice to see a solid speed above 1500. That's kind of been the magical number lately for graphics cards. It's 1500, especially on the Maxwell architecture. We got over 1500 on GM204, which was like really awesome because we thought, well, if GM204 can do 1500, then GM200 would probably do a lot less, because that was kind of the way it was back in the past with Kepler and Fermi. But this time around, we're still exceeding 1500 megahertz even on the big GPU, so that's nice to see, where you get all the CUDA cores and the core speed to go along with it. Now I've become more and more impressed with MSI as time goes on. Back when their Twin Frozer was nothing more than an upgraded cooler on a reference card, to them upgrading, you know, the Twin Frozer over time through various generations. And I believe this is the Twin Frozer 5 cooler on here now. And now the gaming series cards, custom PCBs, completely designed from the ground up, all cooling aspects considered. RAM is cooled, VRMs are cooled, backplate looks fantastic on there. And I think it really shows that a brand like MSI is really working hard to compete to earn your hard-earned dollars. I mean, when it comes to buying a graphics card, you know that there are just so many options out there. It can become very, very daunting. It's like going clothes shopping with the wife, right? If you're married, you have a girlfriend, and you've gone clothes shopping with them, you know, you've got to look at every little thing, and you've got to try on every single thing. And unfortunately, graphics cards are that way. There's just so many of them. But it looks good. As long as you're looking for a red and black build. Of course, that is going to be a turn-off for people that are building a blue system or a green system or just a plain stealth black system. So if you're into the red and black, then it's definitely going to be a cooler that looks really, really nice. The white glowing LED on top gives you a little bit of added bling, and of course the nickel-plated heat pipes in the cooler just make it look, it's kind of got that racing header feel, so it's really neat. In terms of aesthetics, I think MSI's really nailed it on the head, and I think that's why they stuck with this cooler through the 980 Ti generation instead of going with, you know, Twin Frozer 6 or whatever they're maybe working on. The last thing I wanted to mention was the lack of coil whine. You know, one of the things people really complained about with the 970 cards was coil whine was absolutely terrible. Well, there's zero coil whine in this card. In fact, this card got up to 69% fan speed and still remained extremely quiet, quieter than the pump and the system fans that are on the radiator and keep blowing air across my motherboard. So they've done a fantastic job at making sure that your gaming experience is not intruded upon or intruded upon, interpreted upon. Words are not my forte, okay? I don't even know if forte is the right word. But MSI has done a great job at making sure that your games are not going to be interrupted by the sound of at least your graphics card anyway. The rest of the system is entirely up to you. So there's my 2 cents on the MSI 980 Ti Gaming 6G from, well, MSI. I think it's a fantastic card. You really can't go wrong with it. The performance is there, the sound level is low, the coil whine is non-existent, and the overclocking is clearly there at over 1500 megahertz on this sample, which is a retail sample. So I assume it would be pretty near, at least 1450 or higher. That would be my guess as to where pretty much most cards would land in. So that's all for today. If you guys have enjoyed today's video and you happen to stumble across here, why don't you go ahead and click that subscribe button. It doesn't cost anything other than a little bit of your time, which, you know, admittedly you'll never get back. But maybe you'll learn something, and you know, we're gonna have a lot more tutorials and things coming up here in the near future. If you guys are already subscribed to the channel, make sure you head on over to social media. That's where I spend a lot of my time, on Twitter and the Facebook every now and then. I admit, I'm not the greatest Facebooker out there. I think it's just, I don't know what it is about Facebook. It's personally not my thing, but I do what I can to try and keep everybody happy. So anyway, guys, I'm gonna go ahead and get the heck on out of here. We got a lot more coming up, and I better get back to work. So with that, go ahead and watch another video of mine, and I'm gonna go ahead and get the heck out of here.